Hello, why? Why did I want to swing into the video to begin with? I don't know. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of guessing your favorite book of all time. And by you, I mean my channel besties. Oh my God, I didn't wipe the mascara off my eyelids. Hold on. I'm back. Okay, I'm ready, I think. My tripod is going through something right now. And if you like tip over, start to sink or something, let me know. In fact, I'm gonna take a picture of my setup. Let me clear the dust off. Because I have never looked less professional in my life. That's my lamp on the couch because it was blocking some of my light. I have these giant speakers now that Rob got me for my birthday. They're so lovely. And I just have this stupid little tripod looking like a mess over here. I think I've had this for like 10 years and the legs just like droop. I bought a new one and I can't find it. Anyway, we have 10 people today that we're looking at who filled out my spreadsheet telling me like 20 of their favorite books. Their number one pick is a secret and I have to guess what it is. I get to guess what it is. First up, we're gonna do Natalie. Nat's bookshelf, 34 years old, USA, stay-at-home mom, cancer. That's the information we get about Natalie and all of these favorites. So I'm gonna create like a little timeline of Natalie's life for you. So she read Tuck Everlasting when she was like 13 and loved it and was like, and I was chasing that like time romance kind of thing. And then she found Outlander as an adult. Is my tripod drooping? I knew it would. But in the meantime, while that was happening, she read To Kill a Mockingbird in high school. She was like, oh my gosh, I love this. And then read Pet Sematary, like a little too early in life, like me. Then got convinced by the internet to read Behind Her Eyes for the great twist, House in Cerulean Sea for the found family vibes, Ugly Love and the Hating Game because they're popular romances, and then she read another Diane Chamberlain's a different person from Diana Gabaldon. Oh no, that's gonna mess up my whole thought process. The Martian, A Little Life, They're There, All Involved, never heard of that, A Touch of Darkness, I think is like mythology, which is where my first guess is gonna come into play with Circe. Not a lot of these are like motherhood stories, so maybe it won't be Circe, but I think it would look good with the color palette. So that's my first guess. The second thing I was gonna say is Project Hail Mary, because I thought Diana Gabaldon was on here twice. I was like, oh, well, she probably put Andy Weir on here twice. There's a lot of men's stories here. For a lot of my members, there's a lot of stories about women. Women authors, women's stories, but this is a lot of men. So I'm actually gonna say A Song of Achilles. I get to guess like 10 things, and if any of them are right, I get a point. Let me get out my ugly orange notebook so I can keep track. Natalie. Last time I got 5.5 points of a potential 15. Can we beat it? Probably not. If we're talking about time, Addie LaRue could also be an option. If you didn't watch the first video, I have a kind of running list in my head and as a graphic of the 30 most mentioned books on the spreadsheet, because if I'm struggling to think of anything, I can go to that 30. And one thing that I know is on there is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. And I feel like because of its popularity, because it's like real life but with a little bit of something extra, which a couple of these could fit into, and it has to do with time, I feel good about that. So those are my official guesses. I'm not gonna take all 10. I don't need them. I think I got it. And then to confirm my guess, Robert, my very kind husband, has put together a color palette of the answer. So I just need, oh, there's Natalie's. And that will help guide me into the right place. Okay, that's not any of the things that I just said. That's 7 years, 7 days in June? 7 days in June. Hey, I'm gonna get half a point. It's handy when the cover only has a couple colors, so it's instantly recognizable. Let's see the answer. The Poppy War. What? Wait, The Poppy War? Robert? Something went wrong here. Is someone else's answer now going to be 7 days in June and he just put the wrong name down? Or is there some cover of The Poppy War that looks like this? I guess we'll find out by the end. The Poppy War? I would not have thought of that. Wasn't that the first one that I got in the first video? Did I copy something over wrong? Yeah, I never would have seen that coming. I guess I don't really know what Kings of the Wild is. That does look like fantasy. And A Touch of Darkness, like I don't know how fantastical that is. I wouldn't have thought of like a war fantasy here. I wouldn't have thought of like a series probably at all. But I mean, that's the is it duality if it's like 10, or is it duality if there's two things? Can duality mean like just many things, or does it only mean two things? Like if you like two things, you have duality. So if she has like 8 different genres here, it's like octality. Okay, good for you, Natalie. I'm glad. I'm happy for you. I'm not happy for myself. I have 0 points. Next up is Rhonda. Totally different vibes. I don't know what half of these are, to be honest. There's fantasy looking things like The Last Kingdom and maybe Hood. And then there's The Lonesome Gods, but then there's mostly mysteries. So Jane Harper's on here twice with The Lost Man and The Dry, which is baiting me into saying Force of Nature or something like that, which I'm not going to, because I don't think if you love The Lost Man and The Dry, you automatically love Force of Nature. I have read all 3 of them. So it's an option, but okay, there's the 13th Tale on here. Now the 13th Tale is leading me in the direction of, if I'm thinking of the most popular things that I know are on the spreadsheet, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is a kind of similar idea of interviewing an author. That's my first official guess. We also have some like cozy things here, cozy mystery-ish ideas. Everyone in my family has killed someone. A Curious Beginning is like romance mystery, and Emily Watt's Encyclopedia of Fairies, you know I love, and that's fantasy romance, but it is mystery-ish. House in the Cerulean Sea is cozy. I can't really pull from like anything else on here. I want to say it's a mystery. Rhonda is 45, a writer living in Canada, and is a Scorpio. There's like historical mysteries and also just like more classic or things that came out in like the 80s, 90s. Maybe it's like an Agatha Christie. That's someone that I never mentioned in the last video, and then she popped up. Another, I think, cozier style mystery is The Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie, or whatever that one's called. It could be an author like Louise Penny, Dennis Lehane, Tana French. Could be Tana French. If I was recommending something to this reader, I would say like Finley Donovan or Every Time I Go on Vacation Someone Dies, but I don't think that's gonna be the favorite of this reader. It could be just like a really well-loved mystery though that's come out in the last, 10, 20 years, like Gone Girl. It could be a childhood favorite too. Like maybe Rhonda was reading Nancy Drew, or like Harriet the Spy, and that is what introduced her to mysteries, and so she had to include that as a #1 favorite. Okay, it's like primary colors and then brown. I have no idea what this could be. Could still be a Nancy Drew, because Nancy Drew, a lot of yellow covers. Watership Down. Okay, Rhonda. I also enjoy Watership Down. I don't think I have it marked as read on Goodreads because I read it so young, but it was like one of the first rabbit cover books I ever loved. There's no other rabbits on your page. How would I have known? How could I possibly have known that you're a rabbit girl? With all of the mysteries on there, I never would have gotten to Watership Down, but it makes sense in a certain way. I still have a big goose egg. Okay, let's move on to Macy. I have a Macy and a Lacey. Macy, when you guys have such broad taste, I think it's so beautiful, but it also is a struggle because I'm like, okay, cozy, 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 cozy romance. Yeah, what? No. Thrillers? Romantasy? Now I don't know. Macy is from the USA. She's 26, a finance specialist, and a Leo. I feel like I'm giving you their dating profile. I'm like, are you interested in Macy? And it doesn't help that I like choose this completely fake profile picture for them that probably doesn't represent them in any way. Anyway, Macy likes The Keeper of Enchanted Rooms, Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, Ready or Not, Half a Soul, Heartstopper, Love Theoretically, People Who Meet on Vacation, Just for the Summer, Better Than the Movies, Jack the Ripper, or whatever, Dating Jack the Ripper, is that what it's called? A Court of Mist and Fury, and then The House Across the Lake, The Last Word, House in the Cerulean Sea, which is like everywhere. That's on so many people's today because I couldn't escape it. And when I was randomly choosing people, Fourth Wing and P.S. I Hate You. There's only like one thing on two here that I've never heard of. Kayla, get it together. The first thing that comes to mind is another cozy thing, and that's Legends and Lattes. Cozy, fantasy, that's the easiest pull here. Again, Emily Wilde is an easy pull because I like some things on here and I know that they're lighter and those are lighter. So those make sense. I also think a lot of these are just like really popular book talk books. So I'm trying to think of ones that I've seen mentioned a lot. I would say even like specifically a couple creators I can think of who I know gave 5 stars to like almost all of these books. Taylor Jenkins Reid would make sense here, as well as Tomorrow. I would also say maybe A Curious Beginning. Obviously I go to books that I have read a lot of the time, but it's not for no reason, because like I know this person watches my content and maybe has gotten ideas from me. So if I look at everything here, I'm like, that could be one that you might have picked up. But also it could be a thriller. Like her #1 favorite could be a really popular, like what's the most popular thriller everyone talks about? Like The Silent Patient. But then also, again, it could be a childhood favorite. Like you could put a #1, when the rest of your list is more recent stuff, it could be like that like the first couple of years I was on BookTube, I would always say my favorite book was Stargirl, because that was something so formative for me as a teenager, even though it wasn't relevant with what else I was reading. So maybe like, oh God, I don't even know. Like anything, like Alice in Wonderland or Narnia or Peter Pan. That type of reader could then grow up to read these type of books, but also because of her age, I don't know if those ones were like as relevant as when I was growing up. I have a lot of ideas, but nothing is clear. So let's look at Macy's color palette. Okay. Brown, white, greenish, brown, rosy, red, yellow. Could that be Legends and Lattes? I feel like there's more green. No, that could be Legends and Lattes, right? I mean, I'm not looking at the cover right now. You are. So I might sound totally crazy, but let's find out. Macy, Legends and Lattes, we just spelled right. I got a point. This was, I mean, one of the easiest ones. I talked myself out of it with a million other ideas, but I got it. That was the first one I mentioned, I think. Let's move on to Mariana. Mariana has some, what I would consider maybe like childhood or youth favorites, with Perks of Being a Wallflower, maybe The House on Mango Street. Like I know it's technically an adult book, but I feel like a lot of people read that in high school, as well as The Catcher in the Rye and Fahrenheit 451. So we've got maybe a wide range of things throughout her life. She's 34, from the US, a Capricorn, works in marketing. I've never heard of that octopus book. I love A Midnight Bargain. I didn't like The Diviners. I haven't read Anxious People. Again, House in the Cerulean Sea is here. Big Little Lies is here, which I loved. Small Things Like These I liked. Homegoing I didn't, but I totally get it. And The Tenderness of Flesh kind of throws me off a little bit, because that's like, I mean, there is some dystopian vibes here, but that's more in the horror arena. The Color Purple, I don't know what that owl one is, and I don't know what Flying Solo is, but it seems to me like we have a good amount of general fiction, just like stories about people mixed in with some mystery, a little fantasy, a little thriller. All of these books, at least the ones that I know about, have something to say. Like they're about people finding like purpose, or people, especially women, reclaiming their lives, like finding their magic, finding their ambition. They also like don't get a really good idea of like one specific theme or genre or idea. So it really could be anything. If I go back to that 30 most mentioned things, I would say, and because of like the mix of these being from so many different time frames, but like not a ton of recent stuff, I would say The Hunger Games. Like Mariana, I could see absolutely loving The Hunger Games. Also Station 11, as far as like a little bit dystopian, but more about individual people striving for something. The Goldfinch wouldn't be crazy to be here. I also think some other kind of classic things like The Bell Jar would make sense. The Great Gatsby. I don't know, this one's a little unclear to me. Maybe you, as the audience, are able to catch a vibe. But let's check out the color palette and see if that helps us. It's taupe and blue. Are these the colors of A Man Called Uwe? I'm looking at my own shelves, but obviously it could be something I haven't read. I feel like this is gonna be a classic. I feel like classics are often like the taupey and then a little bit of blue. Let's see, Mariana. Les Mis. That makes sense. Having a list like this and then having your #1 be a classic definitely makes sense to me. No points for me though. Let's move on to Tara or Tara. 31 from Ireland, a Sagittarius, a customer service manager. We've got House of Leaves, a person after my own heart right at the beginning. Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, which is nonfiction. There's another couple nonfiction at the bottom. We have A House in the Cerulean Sea again, Station 11, The Final Empire. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, On a Sunbeam, A Monster Calls Daisy Jones and the Six, Nothing to See Here, Jonathan Strange, The Name of the Wind, Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, and The Vanished Birds. The fact that we have some sci-fi at the bottom makes me think it's going to be sci-fi at the top. The number one is going to be a sci-fi. That's the feeling that I'm getting. The most popular science fiction that I see on the spreadsheet, Project Hail Mary. Or It's to Tell You This is the Time War. There's a couple of things on here that have to do with the relationships that remind me of the relationship in Project Hail Mary that immediately make me think of that one. There is a lot of kind of found family on here, connections between people who otherwise might not have ever interacted. Because Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is on here, I want to say Piranesi. I think Piranesi would make sense with a lot of these reads. This is a pretty like beloved list. Nothing on here is shocking. So I think the number one pick won't be something completely outside of the realm of possibility. So if I just say every single book that's on the top 30, I'll probably get it. Tara, what is that? It's yellow and gray. Oh my God. Are those the colors of Project Hail Mary? I think they are. I think I got it. Okay, oh my God, let's find out. The Starless Sea. What? Wait, I should have said that one. Okay, this cover. I don't think even if I thought about that one for a long time, I would have gotten to it because it's not on my list of 30, but it is on the list of the most mentioned books in the number one position on the spreadsheet. Okay, let me try a little bit harder once I get the color palette, because maybe I could have done that one. And that one makes sense. Like it's a not surprising one. It's like about books. Bookish people often like books about books. Tara, I am interested to know if you have read Piranesi and if it's just not in your top 20 or if you haven't read it yet. Next up, we've got Casey. We have The House in the Cerulean Sea again, but like everything else for the most part is different. So Casey is 30, a Cancer from the States, and is the director of content strategy somewhere. Incredible. We also have The Stationery Shop. So that's historical. In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, which is a thriller. The Man Who Died Twice, which is a mystery. The Night Circus, which is fantasy. Dark Matter, which is sci-fi fantasy. Vicious, fantasy. Adventures of Manila Sarafi, Beneath the Sugar Sky, A Mystery with Finley Donovan, Fantasy with Ninth House, Carrie Soto's Back, Confessions, General Fiction, Mystery. Miracle Creek, thank you for listening, A Romance, and Ordinary Monsters. There's a romance at the end, if we didn't already have enough genres. What I am noticing with like In My Dreams I Hold a Knife and Ordinary Monsters and Ninth House and even Confessions and maybe parts of Vicious, I can't remember that book very well, maybe The Night Circus, it's like school-based, like learning things gradually. It's not like dark academia necessarily, but some of it is. But it's like getting in tune with your powers or your knowledge or something. So I don't just automatically want to pick something cozy. Like there are a couple cozy fantasies here, but I don't think it's automatically going to be a cozy fantasy. But I'll throw out like Emily Wilde because that one's academic. Okay. I kind of want to say there's a lot of quests here. Am I making that up? I want to say Six of Crows. And maybe it's because Leigh Bardugo's on here, but I was just thinking like it's a group of people. They have quests to complete. I think it's going to be something from childhood. I think it's going to be something that came out in the last like 10 years that really just impacted your reading in such a great way. I want to say Babel, but that doesn't really fit. Like it does in some cases, like the magic and the school environment, but that one's not necessarily constantly moving. If We Were Villains in the Secret History are two that it could be. Maybe The Raven Boys. Again, that's YA, but I know that it's in people's number one position a lot. So I'm going to say that one. Will this confirm everything or throw me off more? Okay. It's like, what would you call that? Like rusty brick and then blue. Somebody was The Raven Boys last time. And I remember seeing the color palette and not recognizing it as The Raven Boys. And I'm trying to figure out if that's happening to me again. That blue feels so distinct. And I feel like I've seen it. Maybe not in the top 30 unless it's Anne of Green Gables and Rob grabbed the exact same cover somehow that I have on my graphic. It's like almost the same as the Blue Book of Nebo. Is it kind of the blue from The One by John Mars? The suspense is killing me. Daisy Jones and the Six. There's like the tiniest amount of blue. I never would have gotten that. Did I not say that even though Carrie Soto is back, is on here? Okay, I need to do some self-reflecting. Let's move on to Rachel. I'm gonna get a point here. I didn't realize how similar, because like the whole lists aren't similar, but because there are similar titles, I feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over again, but I know I'm not. But we do have, once again, Emily Wilde and Legends and Lattes and The Adventures of Mina Al-Sarafi. But I don't think we've seen Trust the Emerald Sea yet. Chain Gang All-Stars is here. We Ride Upon Sticks is here. I don't know what 7 Brief Lessons on Physics is. Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. I love Migrations. I love Leave the World Behind, No Exit, and The Martian. And then we also have Eileen and God Killer, which I guess I need to take those recommendations now because there's so many of my favorite things here. Rachel is from Australia, a Scorpio, 39, and an operations manager. So do we grab something that could be a childhood favorite, or do we stick with more recent things? I think we stick with more recent things. Definitely cozier things here, but not always. There's a lot of like kind of low plot books here. Things that people wouldn't say are fast moving or exciting necessarily, and examine like relationships, especially Leave the World Behind. And then Migrations being there. It's like apocalyptic, but not incredibly apocalyptic. Like that's not the point. So I could come up with probably like a million other things, like Severance, I Who Have Never Known Men. That could make sense. There is fantasy here too. Like there's the possibility that like the 5th season is on here. Something by Emily St. John Mandel would also fit really well here. Station 11 is one of the top mentioned things on the spreadsheet overall. So I'm gonna say that one. I feel good about some of the ideas. Although let me also think, there's pirate books here. So maybe something else piratey or like heisty or questy too. So I'm gonna say Six of Crows for Rachel as well. Even though there's like no other YA. I don't know why it's like last time I was so committed to someone having A Dowry of Blood as their number one and it was never somebody's. Now I'm committed to Six of Crows being on somebody's list because I'm surprised by how little it's even on the spreadsheet. Rachel, let's see your color palette. It's brownish yellow. Is that, what is that? Is it Circe? Let me think of an apocalyptic book that's those colors. All the ones I can think of have blue on them as well. I don't see anything on my shelves that immediately comes to mind, but I can only see their spines. So let's find out, Rachel. What's your number one favorite book? Perfume. The Story of a Murderer. I've never heard of this, and I'm frightened. 18th century France. Born with a sublime gift and absolute sense of smell. Oh wait, I have heard of this. He becomes obsessed with capturing the smells of objects. One day, he catches the hint of a smell that will drive him to an ever more terrifying quest to create the ultimate perfume, the scent of a beautiful young virgin. Rachel, are you okay? I mean, you have so many of my favorite books on your list. I might have to read this one. 0 points for me, but I think I added something to my TBR. It's definitely a better situation when this happens and somebody's number one is something like I never would have gotten to. Like you could have given me the color palette, like a list of every book you've ever read, and I never would have guessed that. That's actually a better scenario than if it's your number one and it's something that I could have gotten and I just couldn't. I couldn't quite remember the book in the moment. I would rather it be way out of left field. Next up we have Cypher. Now this list to me is like cool girl books, cool guy books, cool person books. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't really heard of, which makes me automatically think you're cooler because you read more, not necessarily obscure. Yeah, some of them more obscure, but just like a lot of these books are books that I see like people who I consider cool on Book Talk to be reading. Some of them I've read. I read Piranesi. Several people are typing. We Used to Live Here is a little more outside of the box. There's a lot of like fiction here, I think. Parable of the Sower, super good. The number one here is on my TBR shelf, Night of the Living Res. I've vaguely heard of No Longer Human. Peter Darling, no idea. Femmes, I can't even see what that one says in the top right corner. Fierce Femmes and something. Almond, we've got Metamorphosis, Open Water, Convenience Store Woman, How to Pronounce Knife I've read. Kitchen. Is Mother Dead? The Bluest Eye. I don't know what these have in common, but I wanted to make sure I picked people occasionally with lists that were outside of like what I've actually read. This person is 26 from the USA, is a Cancer, and I'm just gonna list some other cool person lit fic type of books. But there is also like leaning horror a little bit. I'm intrigued. Right out the gate, I want to say Monstrilio. I want to say Bunny. The ones that I haven't read that I would think of, that I know I see a lot on Book Talk, like My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I feel like this reader would read that. They would read Boy Parts. They would be reading maybe like The Idiot Deliver Me. That one would kind of make sense. There's no way for me to get this one, like genuinely. Color palette. This will help us. Blue with a little bit of yellow. This kind of looks like the colors of the 5th season, like the blues with a little bit of yellow. Other than that, I can't really think of anything because there's so many books that are blue and yellow. Brat, is Brat these colors? Does A Little Life have any yellow on it? Because that looks like the blue that A Little Life is. What colors are Call Me By Your Name? Is there red on that one? Okay, let's find out. Other Words for Smoke? I love Other Words for Smoke. Oh yeah, it is those colors. I wouldn't have thought of that one with all the time in the world, I don't think. But it makes sense because it's like fiction, a little bit weird, a little bit horror. Oh my God, that book is so good. Thank you for reminding me it exists. I don't have it on my shelves. I need to buy it. Definitely an underrated one. And if I called this a cool reader list, that means I'm a cool reader because I read it. We only have 5 people to go and I still only have 1 point. Let's try to get 1 more by the end. Lacey. Hey, there's I Who Have Never Known Men. Maybe that's why it was in my head a little bit, because I was thinking of the person I already wrote it down for. Oh, The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. Just that cover style made me immediately think of 7 Days in June. And I wonder if this person is going to be the one who had 7 Days in June now. So Lacey is a full-time student and gift shop manager from Bermuda, 26 years old and a Virgo. And we've got a lot of stories about women. I Have Never Known Men, a group of women in a dystopian setting. The Hacienda, about a woman being like agreeing to go into a marriage to benefit the families. Come Closer, a woman dealing with like maybe a possession or her mental health. Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, a group of young women who are pregnant. Small Things Like These, a woman struggling. Mother Thing, a woman dealing with her mother-in-law. Perfume and Pain, like lots of women. Being Lolita. And we have a couple of romance things at the end. The Love Hypothesis, Hook, Line, and Sinker. We also have Home Before Dark and Jane Eyre. Dream Work by Mary Oliver. That's poetry, I think. Hotel World by Ali Smith. Okay, stories about women. Bunny. Somebody has to have Bunny on their list. Bunny would look cute here. There is some like horror adjacent things on here, so I wouldn't be shocked if Lacey liked Bunny. But there is more of like a gothic vibe here. Even Home Before Dark and Witchcraft for Wayward Girls have a very gothic feel. The Hacienda, definitely gothic. There are some other classics on here, so maybe number 1 would be like Rebecca. That would totally make sense to me. It could also be like a more recent gothic one about a woman getting into control and like having people pushing against her. The Year of the Witching and also Slewfoot. Those are ones I recommend in tandem so much. They're similar in a lot of ways, very different in a lot of ways. But those two, just about women finding their, I don't know, it could be like anything. That's any Reese's book club pick. I mean, Where the Crawdads Sing, Lessons in Chemistry. What else? It could be like A Dowry of Blood, because that's gothic and it's about a woman like reclaiming her life. When We Were Birds, maybe. The Girl with the Louding Voice. Just like, it's definitely a woman finding her power. Like for sure that's what it is. I just don't know. I don't know what book it could be. There's so many options. And this is such a great array of genres. Like we're everywhere. So it really could be anything. But am I also not thinking enough about mysteries and thrillers? Because there's only a tiny bit of it here. Rebecca is I think Rebecca's a really good shout actually. I was thinking it's not Bunny because I was like, no, it's orange and yellow, but the paperback is pink and yellow. I got it right? And I made her background already pink. Like, I made this happen. Actually, I don't know if I'm right yet. Let's find out. I'm scared. Bunny. Ah! I mean, it is on the spreadsheet a lot. It's bound to be somebody's favorite. Lacey. Hell yeah. Thanks for getting me a point. I now have 2. We're moving on to Amanda. Amanda has a couple things we've seen already, like Chain Gang All-Stars. Maybe that's the only thing. I can't really remember anybody else's list now. But we have Babel, Confessions, The Hunger Games, The Raven Boys, Every Heart a Doorway, Chain Gang All-Stars, The Measure, They Never Learn, Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, Tender as the Flesh, What Lies Beneath Us, Between Us, Know My Name, I'm Glad My Mom Died, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and Slow Noodles. That's the only one I haven't heard of. And again, lots of different genres. We've got sci-fi, we've got fantasy, we've got thrillers, we've got nonfiction, we've got some stuff that like gets a little bit like edgy, right? Like Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. You have to be like a little fucked up to enjoy that. Same with Tender as the Flesh. Amanda's 32 from Germany, a podcaster and a Leo. And we have a lot in common. I love almost everything that's here. It makes me really think I need to read What Lies Between Us sooner than later. So I'm gonna say another John Mars. I think if you liked Chain Gang All-Stars and The Measure and there's John Mars on here, like how is the one not your favorite? That one checks out. Especially because Confessions is like a good twisty one. They Never Learn has a great reveal. I'm just gonna guess any thriller that I've talked about before that has like a twisty ending. So Behind Her Eyes, there is like this mix though of mysteries and fantastical or sci-fi things. So if you blend those two together, you could get like The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I think this person could like. It's a mystery, but with like somebody going in a bunch of different bodies. But then you also have dystopian kind of things, or like, what would you call it? Like conceptual, futuristic things, like The Measure and Chain Gang All-Stars. So something similar to that would be like The Power. The one is also similar, but The Power is like, what if this happened instead of this? But also, if there's an older title, like something that Amanda read in childhood, I would say maybe it's like The Giver. I would say somebody who read The Giver growing up read The Hunger Games and then Chain Gang All-Stars and The Measure, and like that trajectory, those connections make sense to me. Those are all of my initial thoughts. If Amanda's color scheme is like black and yellow goldy, I think all of those were, and it's not gonna help me. Okay, it is gray and black and red, just one pop of red. Is it The Night Circus? I think I guessed that 7 times last time. Wait, this one could be the Six of Crows one. Is this one gonna be Six of Crows and it's like the one time I didn't guess it? Or maybe Gideon the Ninth. I don't remember how red that one is, but I wanna say Gideon the Ninth is my other guess. Let's find out. Oh my gosh. Six of Crows. Okay, I only get half a point, but I'm glad I thought of it because of all of the people, this is the one who does actually have a couple YA on the list and the other ones didn't. And then I said Six of Crows. This one, Six of Crows, makes sense. If you read The Hunger Games and The Raven Boys, it would totally make sense that you read Six of Crows. Amanda, thank you for my half point. Adelia is next. This is different, but reminiscent. We've got The Hunger Games, which we've seen. We've got Leave the World Behind, which we've seen. Legends and Lattes, which we've seen. Finley Donovan, which we've seen. And then some other random stuff. I see YA Mysteries from Adelia, who's 23, from the US, a law student and a Sagittarius. The reappearance of Rachel Price and A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Those are both by Holly Jackson. I don't think there's any other like standalone from her that I would guess here. And well, maybe like you, I don't know. Is there something in that series, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, that you would put above this one? I don't know. The first one looks very intriguing. A Most Agreeable Murder. I think I need to pick that up now. We've got a classic with the yellow wallpaper. A Study in Drowning, which is a more recent release. Sharp Objects, which makes me think Gone Girl could be on here. If you have an all-time favorite book and you have some mysteries on your list and a Gillian Flynn already, Gone Girl. The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires is here. And there's a horror at the bottom, Wrong Place, Wrong Time, a recently published mystery with a little bit of time travel to it. Okay, should I take that into account? Fantastic Land is a mystery thriller I've really liked. This one's tough. I want to say, because there's like classic and there's mystery on here, I want to say a classic mystery. What the heck is that one called? None of this is true? None of them left? My mind is like spaghetti at this point. I can't connect anything. I have too many books in my head. None of, and then there were none. Wow, okay. That's gonna be my official guess because it took me too long to get there. Maybe like The Haunting of Hill House, I could see. I think this is probably like the perfect age to have read that E. Lockhart that I hated. So that's going to be one of my guesses because that's really popular, or it was at its time. Maybe I would also throw A Curious Beginning in here. I don't know why. I think it's just because I see that first book and it looks like a cozy historical mystery. Yeah, it's going to be a YA mystery. There is horror and post-apocalyptic, a little bit of time travel and sci-fi, fantasy leaning stuff, but I just think the number one is going to be like a classic mystery. Okay. Yellowy beige with a green pop. Nothing is coming to mind for me for that. That green is not anything familiar. Like maybe Little Women. I don't think so. I think it's a classic and I'm not gonna be able to figure out what it is because there's so many different covers. So I'm not even gonna bother scouring my shelves to try to figure out what it could be. The Cruel Prince. There is not green on that. Oh my God, there is. Is that a beetle? I have never noticed that before. Rob went crazy with these color palettes. Would I have guessed that with everything else on here? No. I don't think so. Like it is popular with a certain demographic and I think your age makes sense with that one. But when I think, I haven't read The Cruel Prince, but I think of it as like, is it like a fairy fantasy? And it's like, I feel like there's something like uncomfortable about it that I've heard people talk about before. And I just wasn't getting that vibe from the rest of stuff. Everything else seemed pretty like clear cut. And I think The Cruel Prince, I think I've heard it's more of like a guilty pleasure kind of book for people. I hope I'm not thinking of the wrong thing. Thank you very much for your submission. I did not get a point. We're gonna go to our second last one, Christina. Christina loves a long book. These are long ass books. There's a lot of fantasy. And I think that she has pulled like a favorite from every series that she loves. Maybe she loves that Brandon Sanderson series and that would be like her top, 5 books, but she picked her favorite, Words of Radiance. And then her favorite from the George R.R. Martin one, A Storm of Swords, The Dragon Republic from R.F. Kuang, Brandon Sanderson's The Hero of Ages. And then I don't know if Grace of Kings is a series or a standalone, but we've also got a sort of Kaigen at the bottom, The Stand by Stephen King, It by Stephen King. We've got Slewfoot by Brom, The Goldfinch, which is a long general fiction. Slewfoot is fantasy. It is horror. The Stand is fantasy. We've also got The Hobbit on here. And then Kindred, Norwegian Wood, Identity. Little Fires Everywhere is probably the shortest book here. Of Mice and Men. So I'm just going to pick something else that's long as shit. And I think I just need to look up like a whole bunch of fantasy authors that I also like don't really read from but would fit here. So I think James Islington I could see being on the list. Evan Winter, Robin Hobb, Stephen Erickson, Robert Jordan, and K. Jemisin. Any of those authors in their super popular SFF series, like that something would make sense as the number one. But also you have Stephen King on here and it's his more like fantastical books. So the one that comes to mind, the only other one that would make sense to me is Fairy Tale, because I think The Dark Tower, I guess though, maybe there's a really, okay, because I was only thinking the first book in the series and that's not long, but the rest of the series, maybe there are longer ones. So whatever the longest Stephen King book from that series, but I don't know if that feels right. Another really long one from him that is popular is 11/22/63, but I just don't think that fits with the rest of these books, so I'm not going to guess that one. If it was a classic, because there is a classic on here, and it's a long-ass classic. So what are the longest classics that I can think of that I would put in the number one place? Anna Karenina. I own that one. East of Eden. I've read that one. The Count of Monte Cristo I haven't read. I think that's super long because I remember going to read it one time and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. People recommend it to me all the time and then I realized how long it was. Those are my initial thoughts. I can't look at my own bookshelves too much because I don't read super long books. Me and Christina are not on the same page. She is 29 from Germany, a law student. I think that was our second law student, and a Scorpio. I don't think the color scheme will help me because I don't know what any of the books looked like that I just vaguely mentioned. Okay, it's black and gray and like pinky tan. I have no clue, but I do now, looking at this, think it's a classic. I think I'm right about it being a classic. Christina, let's find out. East of Eden. Okay, that's not the East of Eden that I have, but like, why would Rob ever choose that? Yes, I knew I would get another point by the end. Oh, yeah, that's the same author of Mice and Men, Kayla. Of course that makes sense as a pick. You just thought you were a genius. That's the same author. Did I know that? I'm gonna pretend I knew that. Okay, last up, we're gonna go with Alyssa. Alyssa, we have one thing that we've seen before, and that's the Hunger Games. And then the rest is an explosion of like, what are you talking about? In her first spot here, 25 years old, USA speech therapist and a Capricorn, is brainworms. Sorry, what? Brainworms. No, thank you. Then we have a guest in the house, which is, I think, a horror graphic novel. Her Body and Other Parties. Love it. Mrs. Caliban, which I actually just DNF'd the other day. I don't know what that is in the top right hand corner. I'm so sorry. Walking Practice. I put this in here and I don't even know what it is. But then we have I'll Give You the Sun. Like, there are some gross, weird things, and then I'll Give You the Sun, which is like lovely and beautiful and magical. More gross things. Paradise Rot, Mayfly, Patricia Wants to Cuddle, I Wanted to Love. Freshwater is so good. And then there's a bunch of things I don't know. Of Love and Other Demons, Beautiful Darkness, Love Bug, A Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. Things I've never heard of. I do really like the cover of Beautiful Darkness. So I just need to think of some weird stuff, right? Like, this should be easy. I think if you liked Freshwater and the writing of Freshwater, you could like Split Tooth. Also, there's something here that's giving me the vibes of Where I End. As far as things that I've read, Chlorine, The Eyes of the Best Part, Monstrilio again, The Troop. The Troop I did not like. Just when you say worms, it makes me think of things. Monstrilio, as far as like body horror, Where I End definitely has the body horror. Earthlings, which I haven't read, I think would totally make sense on this list though. It's gotta be something like weird girl stuff, but it could also be like a childhood favorite. So I don't know. What would this reader read as a child to get into the weird adult stuff? Maybe like something from Roald Dahl. I'm thinking like body horror. What's that? The Chocolate Touch? That's like the ultimate introduction to body horror as a child that we could have. It's not just all weird for being weird though. Like, there is beautiful stuff here as well. Beautiful prose, like beautiful messages. What I do think is the color palette is gonna help me. I'm gonna really decipher this one. Oh, okay. I was gonna say, if it's like a really bold color, it's gonna be easy. There are so many bold colored things on here, and if it was like a really clear one color, I could have sussed it out. It's like brown and greenish, mustard baby poop yellow. What cover is baby poop yellow? Oh, I was also gonna say Our Ways Into the Sea would have been a good mention. I was gonna say the horror too. The horror could have been good, but that's a lot more red than this. Leech actually would have been a good guess too. I jumped into the color palette too early. I have other ideas. Could it be Big Swiss? That's a weird girl book. It could almost be the Pisces, but there's no blue in the color palette. But the rest of these colors I feel like look like the Pisces. It could be, oh, A Certain Hunger would definitely make sense with this list of gross stuff. It's not all gross, I know. It could also be, what's that Sophie McIntosh about bread? It could be that one. Okay, I've given out enough ideas. It's gotta be something. It's gotta be weird. If this is like a super normal like romance or something, Alyssa, we need to talk. A Certain Hunger. Yes, half a point for me. A Certain Hunger totally makes sense here. And for anybody who likes some things on here, there's probably some other ideas for you, because I don't know what some of these books are. But now you can connect all of the dots, because A Certain Hunger is definitely a popular one that I think a lot of people will have read. And if you haven't and you liked some brainworms, then maybe A Certain Hunger is next for you. I got 4 points by the end, and I did get 5.5 last time, but I also did 15 people. This time I did 13 and I got 4 points, and I feel like I'm consistent. Now the next episode is gonna be a little bit weirder, and if you wanna go submit to the spreadsheet, you can join my channel membership. The link is down below. It helps support me in all of my dreams. And by dreams, I mean running this booktube channel, existing, flourishing, reading. So that's open for the next video that I film. I'm also gonna be doing some other things with the spreadsheet throughout the next couple months. For the besties, I am gonna do a deep dive into the spreadsheet and give you a video full of stats and recommendations. For example, which Emily Henry book you're most likely to like based on your zodiac sign, with actual evidence from 1,000 people who've submitted their zodiac sign. We're just gonna deep dive into certain elements on there eventually. I'm compiling various things, and I will see you in another video soon. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And let me know how many points you got down below. Bye.